All right, so this is going to be a quick tutorial on how to do custom scripts in your maps with the Bean Battles map mod. The first thing before I get into anything else, I'm going to show you how you can update your Unity editor project without having to reinstall the whole thing, which would be very annoying. Yeah, so anytime a new update comes out like this MapMaker 1.1.0 release from a few days ago, if you don't want to have to like go to the Google Drive and reinstall the whole Unity project, which is a total waste of time, you can just go ahead and grab this editor.zip file that comes along with the release. So you can see here, this editor.zip, just download that. And all you have to do is just extract that, go into your Unity project, and then you see this editor folder. Obviously, we've got both of them. Go into the Unity editor folder, and you can just delete all the old scripts here, only the ones in the editor. Then go into the editor folder in Downloads, and you can just select all of these and drag them into the editor folder in your project, and you should get all the new files. Anything new that has changed should be in these folders. That's all you have to do. So it pretty much updated your whole Unity project just like that. Very simple. And make sure you don't change the name of this editor folder or do anything else to the project. It's just these scripts right here. Now, having done that, we can go into the custom scripting stuff. So the main tool you're going to need for this is Visual Studio. I'm using Visual Studio 2022, which I highly recommend. You could use another IDE or text editor like Writer or something, but for this, I definitely prefer Visual Studio. And then I'm just going to actually, what you want to do here is go and create a new project with Visual Studio. You'll have to install this. You can find a tutorial online. It's not hard. And you're going to want to get class library.net framework. So you can just search that here. You see class library.net framework. And if it doesn't show up for you, you can go into the Visual Studio installer and make sure that you have it installed. So I'm just going to go ahead and click that. And then you can make it. So I'll just call it like, I don't know, example bean battles script. And then you're going to want to target .NET Framework 3.5 here. You just click create. All right. So now you can see we've got our project. You can just get rid of all this stuff. You don't need it. I'm going to rename my class here, just right-clicking it, clicking rename. I'm going to call it cool script because it's cool. So there are a few things we need to do to kind of get this working. And I'm actually just going to use something from the GitHub that should be posted in the link. I'm just going to, before I do anything in here, I'm going to go ahead and download the code from the GitHub page. So you can just go there, Bean Battles Custom Maps, click this green code button and download zip. You can go into your downloads folder here and just extract it. Open it up and you'll see a bunch of things in here. You don't need to pay attention to this README. You've got project references, you've got example script and script base class. So you're going to want to add this script base class to your existing project. So what you can do is you can right click here, right click here, go to add existing item, and that should open up your file explorer. You can just go to wherever you downloaded that, open it up, and click this script base class, and you can add that. You see here we've got script base class. You're going to want to change the namespace to be whatever you started this as. So mine's example bean battle script, whatever your project name was when you created it, or whatever your namespace is here, change that. So example bean battle script. You'll notice when you do that there are a few errors that it's throwing. So you see the typer namespace mono behavior could not be found, and here it says the typer namespace Unity engine could not be found. So we need to add this namespace. We need to have it in our project as a reference to kind of access the stuff inside of Unity. So what you can do is you can just go to this references tab right here, right click it, and click add reference, and that will open up this little thing right here. You don't need to pay attention to any of these, just click browse, go to wherever you just downloaded that little GitHub zip, open that up, and then go into project references, this folder right here, and you can just add all of these. Um, and so what these are sort of little DLL files that let you access code from other projects. So right here, this Unity Engine core module lets you interact with all of the Unity code. This Unity Engine input model lets you do Unity input functions. This assembly C# file is all of the code from Bean Battle, so you can access code inside of Bean Battle. So once you have all these four selected, you can just click OK, and you'll see that it gets rid of this error here. So we now have mono behavior, and you can kind of see how that works. Like if I do this, you can see I've got this game manager class, which is from Bean Battles. I've got this game object class, which is from Unity. And if I were to, remove this using directive here, you can see like it no longer lets me do game object. It's no longer with it because I'm not using Unity anymore. But if I put it back in, you can see obviously it works. Now you're not going to want to mess with this script base class really, unless you know what you're doing. You kind of just want to keep it the same, just like this. And then once you have that all done, you can go into this back into this cool script here. And what you're going to want to do is add these using directives. So using Unity Engine, and then you can do this colon here, which essentially means that it is extending another class, and you can say script base class. So now this will include all the code from the script base class, and it'll kind of be identified in memory as a script base class, which allows the mod to kind of identify that it's a script. So this is really more of an identifier than anything else. And then you can see we've got an error here. Cool script does not implement inherited abstract member script class .reset object. So essentially that means we need to add a reset object function like it's defined in here. And for all of this, I'm actually going to go back to this. I'm going to right click the project thing in the right. Right click the top here like we did earlier for adding the script base class. Right click that, go to add existing item again. Navigate to wherever you downloaded the code earlier and get this example script in here. So I'm just going to click add, and I'm going to change the namespace. And you can see kind of a bunch of things that look sort of confusing right now. But I'm going to go over all of that stuff before we go into sort of making a new one, a new custom one. So essentially, you can see this is called the example script, and it also extends script base class. Your scripts have to extend this, the colon and then script base class. If they don't, it's not going to work. So we'll just sort of go over these from top to bottom. So here you see this is a required thing in your script. You have to have this right here, public static string array object tags. So this kind of identifies which objects this is going to put the script on, which game objects in Unity that are going to get this script. And if you want to apply it to more objects, since it is a string array, you can do that. So after the quotations of the first string, you can just put a comma and add another one. So I could make it like cool object. That's not how you spell object. Cool object, or like 13. I don't know. But any object with this tag would then have this script applied to it, or this script, this component applied to it. This is basically a Unity component here. For now, I'm just going to do spinning cube because that's the example one. Then you can, I'll go over these in a second. Then you see this private void start. So this is a default Unity function that's called whenever the game object is first created. Whenever this script is first applied to a game object, really, but don't need to get into the technicalities. So in this, it's saying reset position equals transform.position, reset rotation equals transform.rotation. So I have two vector values here. I have a vector 3 representing a reset position and a quaternion, which is kind of like a vector 4, I guess, which represents a reset rotation. So this stores the object's initial position. So when start is first called, when the object is first created, the position is set to the object's current position. Transform.position refers to the object's position, and the reset rotation is set to the object's initial rotation. So basically, it's setting the object in the map editor, or it's setting the object's position in game to be the same, or like it's storing the initial position as what it was initially in the map editor. So whenever this is created, it'll store that so that when the object wants to be reset in this reset function, that can happen. And I'll go over that in a second. Then we've got another required function here that is called public static string get tags. You don't have to touch this at all. You just have to include it. And it just needs to return the object tags. It needs to be called get tags. So you can just grab it from the example script, or you can just base your first script off of the example script, which I find easiest. But just public static string array get tags. Don't need to do anything else to that. Definitely shouldn't do anything else to that. Just keep it the same. So this is what I was talking about a second ago. This is the reset object function, and it's called whenever a round in bean battles ends. So you don't have to put anything in here, or you can put anything in here. You can do whatever you want in this function. For the example script, it basically does the opposite of what we do in the start method, where it sets the object's position and rotation to the initial recorded reset position and reset rotation. So whenever the round ends, it resets the object to its first position and rotation, assuming that it has moved. If you don't want it to reset across rounds, if you want it to if you're making one that like moves around the map and you want it to continue moving around the map without resetting, you can do that. You can literally put absolutely nothing in here and nothing will happen, or you can, do whatever you want. Sort of up to you. Then there is this very important Unity function here that is called once every frame, called update. So once every frame, the code inside here is getting called. So for the example script, it's moving very slightly. The transform.position is being moved very slightly once every frame on the x-axis. So it's like x, y, z for vector 3s, right? So it's having a very slight position value being added to it every frame. And then here, the rotation is being set to be a random rotation. So it's just randomly spinning while moving slightly on the x-axis. And this is called once every frame with the update method, which isn't completely reliable. And what you can change this to, if you want to, and for certain things I definitely recommend it, you can change it to fixed update, which is called once every fixed frame, which is sort of coincides with the physics settings that are used for bean battles. So this is probably just, I don't actually know how frequently it's called, but I would assume it's called once every 60 or once every frame at a rate of 60 frames per second, right? So this is constantly being called 60 frames per second. So it's being called 60 times per second, whereas the update method is being called once every frame, depending on what your frame rate is. So there's sort of an important difference there. So if you're doing something that kind of you would want to be perfectly consistent across games, you might want to try using fixed update. That will probably be more reliable. Really just depends on what you're going for. But for now, I'll set mine to be fixed update. So that's pretty much all of the stuff that you need to kind of make a basic thing, right? So if I were to go ahead and do this one, if I were to go ahead and make it, I could just, actually, I'm going to very quickly just get rid of this initial script that I made. I'm just going to do the example script. So to compile this and to actually put this into Bean Battles, what you can do is go ahead and go to build and then build whatever the project name was. So mine was example Bean Battle script, so build example Bean Battle script, and that will just kind of compile all of the code into a DLL file that can be used later. You can also just press Control B if you want to quick build it, so you don't have to go up to this little menu here. Control B, I find that to be easier. Really doesn't matter. So I'm going to actually work on putting this into Bean Battles here. So what I'm going to do is go into the Unity project, right? Go to Map Maker, and I'm going to create a new map. Call it a custom script map because we're doing a custom script. Awesome. So I'll just make a quick map here. And what you can do is go ahead and create a 3D object. I'm going to create a cube. I'm going to call it actually I don't need to change the name. I'm just going to change the position to be 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to make it a bigger cube. I'll make it like a 10 by 10 by 10 cube here. Oh, wait. Oh, shoot, I changed the wrong scale. Got to change the scale of the transform. 10 by 10 cube here, and I'm going to change the material because default materials don't like to work. I'm going to change it to this hay texture material, which is a diffuse shader, which I find works a lot better. So now we've got this cube, but we want to make it into a spinning cube, right? So what you can do is you can click on it. You can go into this little tag option here and go into add tag at the bottom. And you're going to want to create a new tag, and you're going to want it to be exactly the same as what you did in your script. So if you want this object to be a spinning cube, if you want the spinning cube script to apply to it, you're going to call this tag spinning cube. So it's pretty simple. Just keep it kind of consistent with what you do in your script. And obviously you can do more tags. So like I could do, whatever you want to do, this script will add to that object. You can only have one tag per object. So the tag is more like an identifier for objects. So I could do another one called, regular, or like, I don't know, teleporting cube, right? And I could make it teleport. And then I could create another script with this tag as teleporting cube, and I could do that, right? So I could make that object teleporting cube. And then, if you want to kind of go further, you could add, say you make a tag like spinning teleporting cube, right? And then you could do a script that would apply to both spinning cube and teleporting cube, or it would be spinning teleporting cube, and then I could maybe make this script both spin it and teleport it. I could write code to make it teleport. So you can sort of see how you can combine tags in your scripts here to apply to specific objects or apply multiple scripts to the same object. So I could make another script and also make that spinning cube, or I could add that code into spinning cube. It really, however you want to do it, it's just sort of all you need to know is that tag and object tag here go together. So if this is spinning cube and this is spinning cube, then this object is going to get that script. And then so you can go back to the Unity project and click on your cube once you've done that and change the tag to be spinning cube or whatever you've named it. So once you've done that, you can really just do your map as you normally would. So I'm going to go and select all of these, record my data, and then create my prefabs here. And you'll notice how the name of the cube changed to have this C underscore underscore and then the tag that I had. And the reasoning for that is Unity games don't keep tags consistently across projects, right? So tags aren't really identified by the name of them. They're more identified by the number that they have. So if I were to put this into Bean Battles, it wouldn't be spinning cube. It would be whatever tag 3 is in Bean Battles. So what I have to do is have the name automatically change to the spinning cube right here. So the C underscore underscore identifies that that is a tag. The string that comes after it is the tag. Um, so you don't really want to put anything after it. But yeah. And then I can go ahead and add this to a new asset bundle. I'll just call it spinning cube because that's all it is. Map maker, and I will build the bundle. Right. So we've got everything there. So there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Steam. Oh, great. We've got an update because I'm going to have to wait for Steam. Blah, 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 blah. Isn't this wonderful? Gonna have to cut this out. Do 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 do. And I'm going to go into Bean Battles right here. I'm going to right click that, go to Manage, Browse Local Files to open up the directory for Bean Battles. I'm going to go into Maps, and I'm going to delete this old one that I already made, and I'm going to create a spinning cube map right here. I'm going to go and create all the folders necessary, so Asset Bundle, Object, Data, right, Icon, and then whatchamacallit. Oh yeah, um, for maps with custom scripts in them, you need to go ahead and add this custom folder here. If you don't have custom scripts, you obviously don't need to have it, but if you do have custom scripts, you need to have this folder here. And I'll get into sort of how that works in a minute. So I'm going to go back into my Unity project, and I'm going to open the Explorer for the Unity project so I can grab all of my things that I've created. So I'm going to grab my spinning cube, which is the asset bundle that represents the objects in the map. I'm going to go to icon. I'm just gonna create a blank PNG, so I don't have to grab an actual photo for it. If you're lazy like me, you can do that too. And then I'm gonna go back into the Unity thing. I'm gonna grab the object data file, which is probably only storing, yeah, it's not really storing much. Paste that in there. So we've pretty much got our map set up right now. I could load it up, but I wouldn't have my custom data in it because this custom folder is empty. So to get to your custom script data, you're going to want to go into Visual Studio, and you're going to want to go to wherever you built your project. So File, and go to File, Open, and then just go to like folder here, or sorry, File, Open, File, right? Or you can just do Control O, which is a lot easier. Bin, once you get in here, right, you're gonna want to go to bin, debug, and then whatever the name of your project is, .dll. So this was example bean battle script .dll, right? And then you're gonna want to copy that and close out of it. And you can change the output location of your build, so you can change it to build somewhere else, which is more convenient, but it doesn't really matter. That's sort of up to you. It's a preference. Then you're going to want to go back into your map folder that you've made in Bean Battles. Go into the custom folder and paste that DLL in there. And if you were to make multiple um, Visual Studio projects and create multiple DLLs, you could put multiple in here. So if I made another one that was called like awesome bean battle script, right? And I compiled that, I could put a second DLL in here, you know, called awesome bean battle script, and they would both work. Um, and you can also go ahead and create multiple classes in your single project, and they will all work. So if I were to make a second class that wasn't example script, instead it was like teleporting cube, right? I could include them both and have my spinning cube and my teleporting cube like I talked about earlier. So now once you've got all the stuff in here, your map is pretty much set. So you can just go ahead and launch bean battles. And we will see our beautiful spinning cube, hopefully. Um, Also, if you're wondering about this little debug menu I've got here, you can actually go into bean battles and add it yourself. So you can go into the bean battles directory, open up the bepinex folder, go to config and open up bepinex.config and scroll down until you see this logging.console. And you can see you can change this enabled value to true, which will open up this console whenever you launch bean battles. And that will um, show you kind of all the things that are going on behind the scenes in bean battles. So it shows you all of the log messages, and it'll show you all the errors that get called. So it can be useful if you're doing custom scripts. If you're adding new functionality and something's not working, it might be throwing errors, and you can check it in here, which I find to be pretty useful. So now I'm going to select my map, and ba-boom! Look at that. Look at this monstrosity here. Um, yeah, so we've got our spinning cube. It's nothing fancy. It's just a spinning cube. That's all we were really hoping for. It's kind of hurting my eyes, to be honest, but it's pretty neat, I think. And this is just a very simple example. You can go a lot more in depth with what you're doing. Um, but yeah, that's sort of the basics to it. And I'm going to kind of show you how you can get a little more advanced with what you're doing. So if you want to do something kind of more interesting than just a spinning cube, right? If you want to actually mess with some code in bean battles and do some kind of cool stuff, you're going to want to get a project or a application called dnSpy right here. So I've got dnSpy.exe. I'll include a download link in the description. You definitely gonna want to get that. So here I'm just gonna close all this out. So this is something that can decompile DLL files. And Unity, all of Unity's code is stored in a DLL file. So I can access all of Bean Battle's code if I just go, to the Bean Battles directory, go to Bean Battles underscore data, managed, and you see assembly-c#.dll. I can just drag that into dnSpy, and it'll pretty much immediately decompile everything. Then you're going to want to open up assembly-c#, assembly-c#.dll, and then you see a bunch of these different namespaces. You're just going to want to go to the blank namespace right here with just the dash and open that up, and that should have all of Bean Battle's code inside of it, which you can kind of use this since we added a project reference to assembly-c#, we can actually access the code inside of our game. So for example, you can see there's this game manager file right here that has a whole bunch of stuff. You can actually go ahead and kind of reference stuff in game manager, right? What I'm going to be doing as a simple script, I'm going to make something that can respawn weapons, which I think is kind of cool. Also, going off of the references I was talking about earlier, sometimes there are things that you want to access in Unity that won't be referenced in just these three base modules, right? So you can actually go into the Bean Battles folder, Bean Battles data managed, and you can see there are a bunch of other DLLs in here that you can use for references for your project. So say you were needing to do something with terrain or with like UI, with networking, whatever, you can go and add those as a reference in case you're getting a missing reference error. You can go and add those. Just sort of if you want to further expand what you're doing. These are just the base ones that you generally need. So now I'm going to remove this spinning cube stuff, right? And I'm going to add an if statement. So if input dot get key down. So what this does is just checks whenever a key is pressed. If input dot get key down, I'm going to make it keycode dot home. Sure, why not? I'm going to do, let's see. So we need to kind of find some of the stuff we're looking for in dnSpy. Enemy spawner. This is the weapon spawning class in Bean Battles. So I'm going to do enemy spawner equals game object. Oh, game object. No, that's not what I want. Game object with the capital G dot find object of type. And I'm going to make it type enemy spawner. So what this does, oh, what did I do? Oh, what do you know? So like I was talking about earlier, I am missing a reference to an assembly that we haven't included here. So I can go into references, add reference, browse. What you can do is you can navigate to your Bean Battles directory, which is what I would normally do. I'm going to do that here. You can just go ahead and copy the address and then paste it in. Sorry, paste it in here, and it'll just take you directly to it, which is a whole lot easier than navigating through every folder. So I think it said Unity Engine.networking. Yep. So I'll just find that, and there it is, and I will just add that. Boom. So now that error is gone. So what this does here is whenever the home key is pressed, it's gonna find the enemy spawner object. It's gonna find whatever object has this tag on it, and then I'll make sure, if enemy spawner, or sorry, lowercase, it's referring to the variable. So if this object actually exists, it's gonna call enemy spawner dot, and if we look in dnSpy, we can see all the functions that enemy spawner has. So we see new round, on deserialize, on serialize, on start server, yada yada. Let's see, new round. So new round, what it does is, if we kind of look at this code here, we can see that it's actually going and spawning all the weapons, right? So this is the function that I want. So if enemy spawner exists, we're going to call enemy spawner new round. And you'll notice that it actually takes a parameter, which is a map C point manager called stage. So it needs to know what stage you're playing on. And you can kind of go ahead and search like what a map C point manager is. So if I click the search button and type map C point, you can see actually what it is. Let's see. I think current stage, something like that. Yeah, okay. So just by searching around, I can kind of find what this is actually referring to. So we see there in the server manager, there is a public map point manager current stage. So, so I can go ahead and like access that. So honestly, I'm going to do something that's kind of poor practice, but it's simple, and this is just a tutorial. So I'm not trying to make the most performant code in the world. It really doesn't matter. Um, so I'm going to, every time this is called, I'm going to make find object of type server manager, because server manager is what has this current stage recorded. So I'm just going to find the server manager, and I'm going to call, and I'm going to access the current stage variable, which is pretty much exactly what this function needs. So now whenever this gets called, it's going to find the enemy spawn. It's going to check if you press the home key. It's going to find the enemy spawner. It's going to make sure that the enemy spawner actually exists. And then it's going to go ahead and call the new round method with the server manager's current stage as a parameter. And one thing that's a little different about this is um, fixed update is called once every physics frame. For input methods, you normally want to do it with the update method, because this is called a lot faster, so it can check every frame, making sure that you're pressing something, which is just something to note. It's not super important, but it's kind of just something to consider when you're doing this. So now I'm going to compile this, and I can even like changed I can even change this reset code if I want to do something like debug.log warning new round started. So whenever this reset object code is called, it's going to make a debug to that console that we added with the bepinex config, and it's going to make a log saying a new round started, which I don't know, just because. So now I'm going to press Control B to build the project. I'm going to go close out of these because I don't need them anymore. File, open file, or Control O, which is faster. Bin debug, and then example bean battle script.dll. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, close here, and go into maps, spinning cube map, this custom folder, and I'm going to get rid of the old one that we don't need anymore. And I'm going to put the new one in. And you can obviously see that this tag hasn't changed, so it's still going to apply to the same object, but it's going to have very different functionality, right? So I don't need to change this. Maybe a little confusing that the object that changes weapon spawns is called spinning cube, but you know, just because they are the same as the one in the editor. So I'm going to launch bean battles. Give it an hour to load here. Okay. Select my map. Do whatever. So you can see it's no longer a spinning cube, but it is a pretty snazzy cube, right? So you see this, all the weapons already spawned, right? But if I go ahead and press home, they spawn again. So I can just kind of keep spamming that if I wanted to. I'm not sure. Oh, whoa, that's kind of cool. If I'm sitting on one, it'll respawn it. And I can actually call that after the round ends, which is pretty interesting. And if I look in the code, you see a new round started, right? If I look in this debug log thing that I made. Okay, well that didn't work. It didn't work. Um, Honestly, it might be this debug thing might not even call actually. I don't know if you can call debug from external script in Unity. I thought you'd be able to, but I don't see it being called. So I don't know, but that doesn't really matter. So yeah, you can see whenever I press home, it is respawning the weapons, which I find pretty cool. Um, and you can expand that to be whatever. Like you can go wherever you want with the custom script, right? But yeah, that's sort of the base with using dnSpy to kind of go a little further in and access Bean Battle's code. You generally have to kind of, if you want to call specific things on specific objects in Bean Battles, like if I want, because I wanted to call something on enemy spawner, I had to actually find the instance of enemy spawner with this find object of type method, which is a little annoying, but it does have to be done. Um, doesn't really matter, but you don't want to be calling something like find object of type. You don't want to be calling something like that every frame. I've got it nested inside of a if statement, so it only gets called once when I press the key. But if I were to put this like outside right here, it would be extremely laggy because it's calling this every frame, and find object of type is a pretty expensive method to call. So you do want to consider that. So like I could just once in the start method, I could call um, something like this and make enemy spawner a uh, global variable, right? So it can be accessed from multiple places, which just kind of, it's a little more performant. It doesn't really matter. But if you were to be doing something every frame, then I'd be able to call something like this and it would be significantly less laggy. Just a thought, you know. But that's really it. There's not a lot else to go over. If you have any questions, definitely ask me in the Discord and I'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. So peace out.